Well, alrighty, man. Welcome to the Dungeon Mastermind podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to teaching folks how to play Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, introduce people to new, cool people, and teach you how to play the game in a more interesting way or for the first time, and incorporate some of those game mechanics into your real life. I am Jake Packham. And I have been playing Dungeons and Dragons now for a fair bit of time, and it has completely consumed my life. Today, I have a super cool dude on with me. His name is Bennett. Bennett, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me first and foremost. But yeah, name's Bennett Chew, and I have done a couple of things, I guess, here in Utah, mostly through Evermore Park. But I was classically trained first and foremost in opera technique, so I'm a classically trained baritone. But of course, I have an insatiable hunger and love for Dungeons and Dragons as well. So I'm happy to be here and can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, man. So I guess how often does your opera training come in play when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Honestly, more often than I thought.
Don't lie.
It's just, you wouldn't think about like how being able to sing opera would be able to help play Dungeons and Dragons, but especially when I'm DMing and I'm doing different voices all the time,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, it totally helps just to know like what my voice is capable of, what's healthy for it, and by the end of the night and the next day, I don't have to worry about having no voice.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I
it
love
comes
that.
in handy.
Good, man. Good. Well, folks, we are talking about the charisma modifier. We have covered a couple of different modifiers now up to this point. And charisma is one of the base stats for your player. It directly ties to a couple different skills, particularly being persuasion, deception, and intimidation. Am I missing anything on that?
Let's see. Do you say performance?
No, I did not. And performance,
There you go.
an absolutely critical and underutilized skill check, if I'm being honest.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll come up with some interesting ways to use performance. Um,
Yeah.
Today, we are going to be playing a little encounter with a character that Bennett played for Evermore's live stream. If you're not familiar with Evermore, it's a pretty cool park. It's in American Fork, Utah, and it's like a fantasy setting. And there was recently this huge event called the Convergence, where a crap ton of like all these fantasy influencers got together and did cool nerdy stuff. And Bennett was playing a character. Tell us a little bit about your character, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in this setting, it was very like grim, dark, Victorian, and so I wanted to try and lean into that by making an Oath of Vengeance paladin, with a little bit of a twist because originally, when you think paladin, it's like a hulking mass of metal, like gleaming armor, ready to punch things, smite things, very smitey boys. But in this case, of course, he's got the smites, but he's a dex build. So he has more of like a thief background. He's more relies on stealth, tricks, and deception, right? So I made it up to be kind of like his perfect little kind of like rogue
Yeah,
based paladin, like a little bit
yeah,
of a twist on it. Yeah,
love it. Honestly, two best classes in D&D 5e, if I'm being honest,
for real, for real.
being Paladin and Rogue. I would probably put Warlock in there, but
mm,
those two, and including Sorcerers, Paladins, Warlocks, and Sorcerers rely on their spellcasting modifier to be
charisma.
Charisma. Which is interesting, man. And maybe we'll dive into this in a second, but I would love to dive into why does a paladin, why does their power come from charisma? Super interesting. But we are going to dive into the encounter. Your character, Leander, has just, and by the way, we're going to link the show in the show notes so that you can go and watch what happened at the magical hands of Dax Levine as he led these. How would you even describe yourselves as a party?
Well, I think just like a ragtag group
No
of
question.
criminals,
Yeah,
you know? Like,
yeah. Ragtag as it gets.
mhm.
Patchwork. Shout out Nero.
Yeah.
Party on there. Yeah, there was a some happenings down in a manor seeking a magical book. And your vengeance was seeking revenge for a fallen tryst. A poor maiden, less of a maiden and more of a badass. And she is no more. May she rest in peace.
Yep.
Um,
R.I.P. Elra.
R.I.P. Elra.
I'll just keep her
Out,
close, you know.
yeah, absolutely, man. It happened, right? You
Yeah,
got your vengeance, and
it happened.
your patron, for lack of better term, has required a recounting of your act of vengeance. Part of your oath is that you are bound to seek vengeance, and you are granted this power, this mighty power, as a means to enact your vengeance in agreement with your deity, right?
Right?
In this case, the deity is Mendaxis. Splitting from the party after the events at Marcos Manor, you took off on your own. You're out camping in the wilderness, hiking toward this destination that you have never been to physically, but you have seen in your mind. A place that is a pull, not something that is a physical destination in your mind, but more of a feeling until it becomes a physical destination one night. You wake up once again sweating. You have not been sleeping well since the events. Obviously, there was some pretty dark and twisted stuff that you saw, and were trying to prevent in Marcos Manor, and that has weighed heavily on your mind, especially having the finality of Elra's death being confirmed, right? Seeing her head and then her body, and then not her body and someone
Separately,
else.
unfortunately.
And yeah, you wake up covered in sweat. You're obviously not wearing your armor because only psychopaths sleep in their armor. And you reckon it's probably close to sunrise, though it is still very dark out. Making your way out of your tiny camp of just yourself in this little ramshackle tent. You move toward a cave, and it's actually less of a cave and more of a pit. There is a covered mouth to it, but it descends directly downward. This is referred to as the Maw of Mandaxis. It is a gigantic hole in the earth, about 40 feet in diameter, and it descends into absolute jet black void beyond what you would be reasonably able to see beyond. So as you stand, knowing that you are pulled downward into this by some extraplanar force, give me, as you're looking down, a Constitution saving throw.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's see here. Ooh. Not doing too great for the first roll, but that's all right. Okay, let's see here. Where's my con at? All right. Oh, God. That's an 11.
An 11. For the first time, I don't know if you've experienced this, but this is like a reverse fear of heights, where you are at the top, but like you also feel like you're at the bottom. Almost when you stand in front of a skyscraper and you feel like it's falling on top of you if you look up too long. That's kind of
Wow.
that feeling that you're getting, and you become dizzy and almost nauseous, not from any magical source, but just like a physical realization that you are standing over a pit that is infinitely deep. And make a wisdom saving throw.
Okay, okay, okay. Let's see what we got here. Probably do a different dice. Maybe I'll do a little bit better. All right, yeah. That is... Oh, and I'm proficient in wisdom save throws. Let's go. All right. I think I'm still +2 at this level. So looking at 19.
All right, that is much better.
Yeah.
You're able to feel yourself, and you again feel the tug in your chest. This time stronger, as it is beckoning you downward, and you feel a need to jump.
I go right in then.
Absolutely, you do. Give me an acrobatics check to see the finesse of your descent.
Let's do it. That's a 15.
All right. Yeah. I mean, it isn't like a professional diver, and you're falling for long enough to realize that like you could move your body around as you're descending, and then you have another thought of, I'm still falling, and once again, like, oh my gosh, I have thought now 3 different times in this descent that I am still falling. Um, and as soon as that third thought comes across your mind, you hit water, a body of water below you. I'm going to need, what is your armor class?
18.
18. I'm going to need a DC 18 athletics check to see if you can swim in your armor.
Oh, snap. Okay, okay. Oh, that totally missed the board. All right. Different dice. Let's go. That's a nat 1. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh!
Do you have dark vision?
As a variant human, no. I don't.
So you have fallen for a long time, and hit the water semi gracefully, right? Like you didn't belly flop onto the water, but now you're drowning. You are struggling to swim upwards to break surface, and now need to hold your breath. You can see maybe 5 feet around you, and then all of a sudden your vision starts to come to you. There is a glowing ambient light that is coming from within this well of water down here. Hues of green and blue and yellow start to kind of almost erupt out of the ground around you, illuminating this well, right? This almost oasis. The water is crystal clear, a cerulean blue, and you'd only know this because of the lights coming through. Give me one more athletics check to see if you can swim.
All right. Yeah, no, that's a 12. All right.
Would you have made it if it was acrobatics?
Um, barely not. It was a 17 if it was.
Okay. We'll say that like even though like you're not breaking water, you're making a little bit more progress now.
Okay.
Give me a perception check while you're down here. Straight
Sure. And nat 20.
Nat 20. As you are swimming, you notice that the lights are moving. You can see that they're coming from rocks. That like these rocks have almost a bioluminescence to them, where they just naturally give off a glowing light, and the lights are moving toward you.
All right. I might pull a divine sense if I can
Okay.
underneath the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a Constitution check, not a saving throw. So just roll this, and if you're proficient in Constitution, you can add that. But just your Constitution modifier.
All right, word. Looks like that's a 12.
Okay. So you would have at least a decent intuition in that you're able to hold your breath for a decent amount of time down here. Like you're not in any danger of like drowning right this very second. We're effectively working in like an initiative order, right, where time is pretty moving pretty quickly for you.
Mhm.
But this is like the stones are moving toward your location, and they start to pick up a little bit of pace. You flash your divine sense, and it is especially potent near the maw, or I guess within the maw of Mandaxus, who grants you the ability to cast this divine sense. And you get sickening, infernal intuition from these rocks.
Interesting. I guess I'll try my best to keep swimming towards Mendaxis
Okay.
without being spotted.
Give me one more athletics check, and we'll call it with advantage. Mostly because you're afraid of your life right now.
All right. Don't embarrass me. Okay, don't embarrass me. Oh, hey. All right. That looks much happier. We're looking at a dirty 20.
There we are. You break the surface, finally catching air, and the lights start to disseminate back into the well. And the cavern that you are now in is dark. Swimming in the only direction that there is, this cavern continues in a semi northward direction, and it breaches into black sand, a beach, and you see veins of these same stones lining the hallway, leading you toward a chamber that you can kind of see in the distance. It smells very clean down here for a dank cave. That smell is odd. But it is wet in here. You can feel the droplets of water, hitting your nose and hitting the plates of your armor, with the little pink, 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 and then the plinks get very rhythmic. Are you moving toward the open cavern ahead of you?
Cautiously, but yes. Oh, yeah. Could I sneak in?
Yeah, absolutely. Give me a stealth check.
Let's go. Oh, that was totally notched. My goodness. We were looking at a 12.
All right. DC's pretty low on this because it is sand, and so sand can kind of muffle your footprints anyway. But you're going to be moving at about roughly half pace if you're walking stealthily, right? And in moving like this, you feel relatively hidden, but you also at the same time within your mind feel seen in a different way. Not physically, but an awareness of your presence. And in moving forward, the plinks on your armor from the dripping water within the cave get more and more rhythmic, forming a hum. I need one more wisdom saving throw. Just kidding, charisma saving throw.
Charisma. All right. All right. We're looking at a 15.
All right, you just barely pass. You feel a paralysis-like effect come over you as the rhythm of the water plinking on your armor almost clouds your entire mind, and you steel yourself yet again. Your mind and your willpower, you're able to push that away, and you see before you this gigantic chamber. Give me another perception check.
All right. Ooh. All right. We got a 16.
All right. Yeah, this cavern is massive, and it is barren. The walls again are lined with the same veining of these glowing rocks, lines of blue glowing rocks and veins of green and yellows, converging into this nexus point at the back of this cavern. The cavern is of rough hewn stone, clearly made by a person and not naturally formed. The cavern is probably 100 feet in height, so it has a massive vaulted ceiling. And I imagine that as part of stealthing, you're not entering into the cavern, right?
Right, yeah. Just sneaking our way.
Staying within and like hiding in the shadows of the mouth of this entrance, you can see a throne made at the base of this nexus point of the glowing rock, a throne of glowing blues and greens and yellows. And on the throne is a beautiful, for no other descriptive words, a beautiful man, pale complexion, long, perfectly stark white hair, a long sleeved white linen shirt with one of those, strings up on the clavicle, gray leather riding pants, and jet black, perfectly unblemished, knee-high leather riding boots. Like this is a very elegantly dressed and very purposefully dressed individual. And this person looks exactly where you are, and addresses you saying, "Ah, Leander, my champion, my hateful, anger-filled, and reckless champion. You have answered my summons like the good dog you are. You have answered, and here I am. I am sorry for what happened to your lady love. Please tell me how you used my power to exact your vengeance."
Leander, still kind of crouched, not unsure of what's going on, I guess, stands up and realizing that he's finally witnessing his god in like a human form, walks forward with a sense of astonishment almost, because he hasn't really seen Mendaxis as anything but like a flurry of eyes and wings, right?
Right.
And he stutters, but what ends up coming out, he goes, I suppose I used your powers to once again kill her, as she was what was trying to kill me.
That is delicious. I wish to grant my hound additional power. What say you?
I'm not sure if I understand. The deed has been done. I don't know if I can continue doing this.
Naturally, I must ask that you do something for me. I have granted you, my pooch, this ability to wield my power in your own name, and now you must wield it in mine. I, unfortunately, am blind beyond this God's forsaken pit, and cannot see how my puppies deliver my word to the world. Unfortunately, I am bound by your own deliverance. You must account to me in as delicious detail as possible what you have done with my gifts.
Well, I suppose when I finally found out who killed Elra, I went almost into a blind rage, but your strength and this sword was able to kill all of them. It was able to put them all to a stop. But what I didn't anticipate was how hollow I'm left.
beautiful. It is as it should be. My power is great and can make yours greater. However, it comes at a cost, as all good things do. Now, in order to earn your kibble, I unfortunately have a servant who might have caused an incredible deed by my name and by my own power. But the poor dog needs chastisement. Punish him, cut him down, and his power, my power, will be yours.
I am at your command.
That is right. He gestures backward, and shrouded in this black mist. Give me an insight check.
I'm not even gonna add the mod. That was just 3 on its own. So
Yeah, I mean, this is Mandaxis, man. Like you're in front of God, right? Like,
yeah.
this is intense. But there is a human side to this that is unsettling, and we'll kind of leave it at that. And from behind the throne walks once again Elra. Disgusting stitches around her neck. Very shoddily performed surgery to connect her body again. And Mendaxis says to you, my warlock has failed. Fortunately, you were able to pick up where she left off. But that does not equate to a job well done, and does not mean that she does not deserve to be punished for falling short.
You mean Elra? No, she was a knight. She was noble.
All knights do not equate to nobility. Because you have a sire behind your name does not equate to needing additional power. She sought me the same as you.
I don't know why she never told me.
Well, I don't suppose she had much time, did she?
He grits his teeth a little bit. What are you trying to ask of me?
Cut her down.
Why?
Because I love it.
She's already died twice. I don't feel like a third time's gonna fix anything.
Nothing is to be fixed. There is nothing to fix. The deed is done. Her vengeance was sought and fell flat. Your vengeance was sought and redeemed in such delicious destruction. And as he is describing his understanding of the situation, and you can feel that he is just like losing it. Give me one more insight check.
Oh snap, this is crazy. And I mean, crazier rolls. 7.
7, man.
This is just a little baby guy. I mean, actually his wisdom is like his dump stat. So he's not supposed to, he's a blind follower.
Well, and blind he is, until the light in the room begins to change, and Mendaxis, give me a perception check.
Yeah. Ooh. All right, we're looking at 18.
All right, much better. You can see that this human version of Mendaxis is a projection. That there is something from within the wall puppeting this image that's before you, and puppeting even Elra.
Oh wow. Do I see?
You can see like spectral strings, like puppeteer strings, like marionette, like someone is manipulating this, and you can see the strings only. They are sourceless. They're not going in any one specific direction, but they are just kind of coming from around, a full 360 marionette.
Oh. Discreetly, I'll use divine sense again.
Yeah, super fiendish, pal.
Yeah, I
There is
know.
not an ounce of divinity in this room, and now you feel it from yourself.
Wow.
You have been blind to your own divine sense. That anytime you have cast divine sense to see celestial fiend or undead, that you've just assumed that you are none of the three and just gone about your day. But you know that this power that you have been wielding is of fiendish nature.
I think he falls to his knees.
What thoughts are going through your mind at this?
He's astonished. Um he looks up at Mendaxis, at least what he thinks is Mendaxis, and goes, "You told me you were a god of good. You told me that these powers would grant me the strength to bring justice."
And did you not?
Leander looks defeated.
Good is arbitrary. Justice is not objective. The image that I have allowed you to have of me is one cultivated, cultured, curated, designed to help you achieve what you have deemed as good and just. So you cannot be mad at me when I asked that you do what I think is good and just and right.
And what if I say no?
Little pup, I will devour your soul.
Ooh, snap.
And that is Dungeons and Dragons, folks.
Right? Theater of the mind.
Gods, they can be such tricky individuals. Man, I love the idea that a plurality of gods, a pantheon of gods, is a thing in nearly all Dungeons and Dragons, because it allows for. I am a very religious person myself, and my personal beliefs are that I believe that there is one God, and Dungeons and Dragons has multiple gods, and so it's interesting to take my background and kind of try and see it in a different light, and that's exciting for me. And that's the same case with just about every aspect of D&D.
Yeah.
So while we didn't do a whole lot of truly charismatic things in this encounter, we're going to talk about it anyway.
Yeah,
because
let's get into it.
why not? It's what we want, right? We can do whatever the heck we want. Charisma. What is charisma to you, Ben?
Well, in the scheme of Dungeons and Dragons, it's basically how well you are able to talk to people. It's your people skills, right?
Yeah.
What I imagine is obviously the first thing that comes to mind for most people is like the charlatan, the smooth talker, but also what I really think is awesome is like the leaders, the Aragorns.
Yes.
They're all
Yeah.
high charisma because
Yeah.
they're able to lead a charge. They can become a face of a party. So that's what I think charisma people kind of forget about, is that most people think it's just to try and persuade, try and make people try and get away with some crazy shenanigans, but it
Yeah.
can also be used to bolster the party. It could be used to rally a crowd. So,
Yeah. I love that. That's honestly one of my biggest pet peeves. My ultimate biggest pet peeve is the stupid stereotype that bards are like these sex mongers, you know,
yeah.
like shout out to We Geek Together in the Provo Mall. They have a sign that's like, keep everything PG-13. We're trying to slay the dragon, not lay the dragon. And I'm like,
Yes, yeah. Oh, I love
why
those
is that
guys.
a thing? You know? But it's like, that's charisma, man. Like, I persuade the dragon to lay with me. And you're like, that's not
Man.
fun, man. Like, interesting. Because yeah, absolutely. Like, is it, in a game mechanics, like the skill check of persuasion, the skill check of intimidation and deception, and also performance, shout out. The but it's more than that, right? Like, it is leadership. It is like the ability to, I don't know, man. Like, one of the definitions in the player's handbook is your ability to impose your will on the world. And I super hate that. Like, super dislike that.
Mm,
Because like when you think of a truly charismatic person, at least when I think of a truly charismatic person, I think of somebody worth talking to.
right.
Somebody who can have a true conversation, that listens, that provides worthwhile conversation and adds to what I have to say. And not somebody who just imposes their will on the world.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Like, yeah, I don't know, because you obviously you had some interesting points on like persuasion specifically. Like what comes to your mind with positive persuasion?
Well, for me, the instant thing that comes to my mind when I think of positive persuasion would be trying to like recruit the old veteran to come back and help join the war, or like there's different interactions, or like even having people side with your cause as a party. Like if you're facing a necromancer and the like ancient wizard who is like almost achieving godhood refuses to help you guys because he's terrified of what other people are capable of, and then you can persuade him to be able to share some of his knowledge. There's so many different ways, and it's a great narrative device, so you can keep telling awesome stories through Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. Because you are in real life like an actual bard, right? You are
How can you tell?
a trained vocalist and musician, and like that requires an ability to have stage presence, right? The ability to perform and keep a crowd in the palm of your hand, with your own skill, right? Like what was your training in regards to your performance abilities, because right, there's a training for like, I can sing really well, I can hit the notes correctly, I can have proper tonality when I'm singing, and then there is, I'm a performer, right?
Right.
What did that training look like for you?
It's something, honestly, that is so difficult to train because it's a sense of like being genuine. That is something that will always bring interest to someone on stage. Always. To be in the moment, to believe you are the character on that stage, is what truly captivates an audience. So it's hard to be able to like train it, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Um, and especially through opera, I feel like that's something that can separate. I heard it time and time again. There's like this sense of being a good technician where you hit every note, like you're saying,
Right.
and all the dynamics are perfect, so you get everything right. But then there's also that sense of humanity and what makes it art, what makes it high
Mhm.
art.
Yes.
And that is something that is, it's almost as if some people have it and some people don't, because you have to be so in tune with yourself to be able to deliver a performance like that.
Yeah, I love that. Um, Obviously, with like a pretty diverse performance background, like what is a character or role or even a piece that you have performed that you felt that humanity aspect click for you?
There is a beautiful art song by Gustav Mahler from his Rückert song cycle called Ich bin der Welt abhanden gekommen, which means that I am left abandoned to the world. And the entire song is this, well, this person singing is the narrator as they narrate themselves experiencing death,
Hmm.
ego death, um, an ending of everything, as then they are teleported to a new world where it is their own heaven. To kind of hash the translation, it's like
Sure.
close to the end of the song basically goes, um, yes, I am left abandoned by the world. I am left alone in my song, in my love, in my music.
Hmm.
And so for me, performing that, I was able to perform it actually in Germany, which was so cool.
Oh, so sick.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so sick. And like that morning, I woke up and I had the intention of, I want to be as genuine as possible to deliver this song, because I feel like it just needs like a day's preparation just mentally to be able to give the give the lyrics justice. And so I spent literally the entire day by myself, um, just contemplating. Where I stayed in Germany, it was like this small town called Kiefersfelden, and there was like a fresh spring river that I could just sit in, and there was like this perfect little bank where it was like a waterfall where I just felt it on my shoulders, and I just thought about the lyrics. And then that night it came to the performance, and that was by far the most like in my body in the moment that I've ever felt.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. I
Yeah.
hope I can do it again, but it's hard to
Yeah.
replicate that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so great though. Um Man, that sounds awesome. I I think you are hitting on something truly incredible for the human experience. Outside of Dungeons and Dragons, that like we miss out on a lot with our digital era, right? We are now in the digital
Mm,
age of our world. And like not once did you talk about, I looked something up on Google, or I FaceTimed my mom, which are like all good things, right? Like they're all, they could have maybe contributed to that, but like they were all getting in touch with the you, right? Getting in
Yeah,
touch with the Ben that is singing this song. Like, how can I relate to this narrator and internalize that emotion? Um, and I think that is what's, shoot, man, if we could all do that like on a regular basis, not every day. I think every day that could get like pretty
that'd
poisonous.
probably be exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you'd get nothing done, and you would just, I don't know, you'd start wearing like black turtlenecks and a beret all the time, and just snap your fingers a lot.
I
But
was also thinking possibly, like togas, and we're out in our sandals, and
yeah,
we're like,
exactly.
why, yes, Plato.
Yeah, over the turtleneck. Um,
Yeah, of course.
it's still moody AF.
Hmm.
Um, fascinating, man. I wish that was something that could be experienced through somebody else, but I think there's also a reason to that you can't, right? And that it needs to be internalized. But good art should open the door for you to feel that.
Absolutely.
And to kind of tie that back into like game mechanics aspect and like playing with your life,
Hmm.
um like that, the human aspect of it, the internalization and the emotion, um I think would very directly correlate with sales, right? Like
Hmm.
when you think of like the classic here in Utah, we got the Vivint bros,
Yeah.
the door-to-door salesmen who like are just sleazeballs, right? And
Hmm.
if you're not, good for you, right? But
Exactly.
the
Appreciate it.
stereotype is pretty strong. um and like the reason is they can be persuasive. They know the skill of persuasion,
Right.
but the art of persuasion is in understanding and wanting to relate to your customer,
Hmm.
right? Like, because people want to buy but they hate being sold, right?
Right.
And like a truly good sales transaction would feel like I am purchasing from somebody who has a service or wares for me to buy, not somebody who is shoving something down my throat and saying the right things,
Right.
right? um so like how do we get in touch with that, man? Like what's the secret sauce? How do we, because I mean, personally, like I know I would love to be more in tune like that with myself and with other people, but like what do we do? How do we do that?
Yeah. I think that I'm on the same mission, man.
find
Like,
a find a creek in Germany, is that the answer?
right, exactly. Maybe there's something in that Hexy Lake water, man, that just
Yeah.
like did something to me. Something just clicked in my brain.
I
Yeah,
don't
no.
doubt it.
Like,
I don't doubt it. The
yeah,
hills are alive with the sound of music out there, man.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And all the little gnomes out there too, putting their
Exactly.
little spells in the water.
Yep.
Absolutely. Like there's some crazy stuff. But I think it is just it's just like a combination of so many things. I think it could be your objective in life, like what you want to achieve. I feel like that's something that immediately draws attention to people. If you're trying to attract a crowd, is like you start with your goal. You start with like, hey, I'm another human too, but this is my mission. Um, and then I don't know. It could be so many things. For me, a big one is like memento mori. Remember death.
Mm.
Um, my parents married much. This is so TMI. Well, I'll make it brief. But like my parents married much later in life, so a lot of my family has passed away because of it. And it's put into perspective though for me, like how short but how meaningful life can be. Because even though I was 8 years old when I lost my grandfather, I love him to this day.
Yeah.
And it turned out later in life that he wasn't always the perfect grandfather. He suffered from alcoholism and all that before I came along, but he
Sure.
changed everything because of me and my brother. And so
Incredible.
moments like that is just like to to be witnessing it from like knowing now what it was like back then. Like that hindsight, I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
Yeah.
You can learn so much from that, you know.
Right.
Um,
But like almost like a tether to both worlds, right? Like
yeah,
an anchor in the past for the hindsight, remembering how you got here, who's supporting you, what they've gone through to get you here, but then also the anchoring to the objective, right?
right.
Like having a firm grasp of your vision and what you want to accomplish. Those two, I feel like, are pretty solid anchor points for the recipe of a decent life, where if you have a good vision of what you want to accomplish, where you want to go, who you want to be doing that with, and how you got to this point to begin with. um wow, man, I think that's incredibly profound. I think that there's something, um yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, appreciate it. But yeah,
You're
I
a
guess to
sage.
turn it all to D&D, to put all of this philosophy into little
Absolutely.
numbers, little silly numbers on a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
Um, when you create these characters um, that have high charisma, it can facilitate in so many different ways. It can facilitate like what we're talking about, where they are just innately powerful. Not that they are like strong physically, but like that they are commanding. Um, and that can be done like either through persuasion, like we were mentioning before, where either they could be the Vivint salesman that comes to the door and like just does their spiel, or they could be Aragorn and they could like rally the riders to fight the orcs, like
Yeah.
the Urukai. Like it's just there's so many different things, and I feel like that's why charisma is almost like the most important stat in a way, because it's the secret, like you were saying before, it is the secret sauce to D&D. It's what makes the game so amazing. It's like it's the most human thing that we can do. Sure, we can slay the dragon. Sure, we can blast magical fireballs. But at the end of the day, we aren't physically capable of doing said things. It's the realm of fantasy. But charisma is, I feel like I feel like it's the way that like people sneak the vitamins into like the
Yes.
food, where
Yes.
you can face like realistic problems in Dungeons and Dragons through charisma checks,
Right.
through
Almost like
abilities. Yeah.
a role play,
Right.
right? Like, yeah, absolutely, man. Like, yeah, like because it's in the role play, it's in the conversations that you have with the barkeep, with your party members when someone has fallen in combat. Like the combat can be interesting, and yeah, of course, like that's why a lot of people play Dungeons and Dragons, because they want to deal the killing blow. But the killing blow and like fighting off an entire band of orcs, or drowning a goblin in a river, like that's murder hobo stuff, and like
Right.
not that doesn't make you a better person. It might be enjoyable a little bit, but like there's Grand Theft Auto for that. But
Exactly.
like,
There's other games you could play. Witcher.
exactly,
Like
yeah. If you want to go kick a chicken, go do that in Skyrim and then see what happens there. um
exactly.
and instead we talk, we role play, we play pretend with people that we know outside of this world, who have their own opinions and their own baggage that they're bringing to the table. And in talking as, Glizzard the Blizzard Wizard, you are, able to say things differently to somebody that might mean the same, but you're able to say it in a way that has a little bit of a barrier of anonymity without losing the human, without losing the genuine approach to that communication. And so this is honestly just a plug to freaking play D&D, guys.
Yeah, do it.
it it's so great. And the conversations had can be worth having in a way that is harder to do outside of real life, or outside of the game rather. Yeah, man, holy smokes, I'm gonna want to listen back on this and book a flight to Germany to find your little Revelation River,
Right.
to become a better man. Man, oh man. So first of all, you and I, we need to get together and we need to play.
For real.
Second of all, how do we support you, man? How do
Yeah.
we, like, where can we find you? How do we, support what you're doing? Because that's what we want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thankfully I lucked out and I have the same handle over all platforms. It
Beautiful.
is the Ben Chewy, TheBenChewy. And I am on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all over the place. I'm super not involved on YouTube, but I'm hopefully changing that in the future. You can, the mostly like what I frequent is like TikTok and Instagram for now. But yeah, I just post cosplay stuff. I post LARP stuff, D&D, obviously, and a little bit of voice acting here and there. So yeah, pretty
Where
rad.
can we find your opera, man? Like that's
Yeah, I work for Utah Opera most of the time. Hopefully I'll be there for their upcoming season. So if you want to check out utahopera.com, you can see they have some awesome operas coming up, like La Boheme, which is one of my favorites. The Notte di Figaro, which is also great. It's pretty banging. It's a pretty banging set that they got for the next season. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, because I've never been to opera. My only experience with opera is Batman movies.
Oh, word. Right.
So fascinating. Well, I'll have to get my wife and we'll go hit that up.
Absolutely.
Ben, thanks so much for coming on, man. Like,
thank
genuinely,
you. Yeah.
This has been a very enlightening conversation. I feel the need to go out and connect on a deeper level. And hopefully you guys get the same out of this, because hopefully I'll be a better person after this conversation.
We all hope
folks,
that, right?
Go connect with people. Okay.
Yeah. Be inspired.
Go walk the streets and give somebody a genuine compliment. Not just say, "Hey, man, sick Jordans," because they might be, but that isn't him. Okay. That isn't them. They are more than just a sick pair of Jordans. Okay. Go out and be genuine and say something nice about yourself. How about that? That's the actual homework. Say something genuine about yourself that you really like. And I like that I have met Bennett and that he's a good dude. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Dungeon Mastermind podcast. Check us out. Follow us. Follow Ben. And let's get better together, y'all.
Yeah. See you guys.